Well, the current spate of inflation and the need to again raise interest rates is a risk to our economy, but savers can earn more. Well, today I sat down with Chris Andrews, CEO of our sponsor LaTrobe Financial, which has been around for 70 years, and just asked him to sum up those emerging risks.
What we're seeing is 15 years of productivity stagnation now starting to catch up with us. The economy is capacity constrained, and that does reflect in a very tight labour market and inflationary pressures. We need to release that. We release that via productivity initiatives, and AI, I think, is going to be a key part of that. So there's the first part of the puzzle. In terms of how that affects borrowers, the Australian borrower is still in a very robust position. We saw through 2022 to 2024 how they dealt with 4.25 percentage points in official interest rate increases, and they dealt with it really impressively. So we're not expecting, the next interest rate increase or two to present real problems for borrowers, but it does mean they're going to have to tighten their belts. For investors, though, investors are going to benefit. This is higher yields. This is what they need at a time when they're under cost of living pressures as well. So for Australian investors, they'll be glad to be getting a little bit of a pay rise over the next month or two.
Just as a lender, do you have to be a little bit more selective now as to who you lend that money to? You've always got your credit criteria. Do you have to be a little conscious in certain sectors? Because it seems to me as though some sectors seem to be going really well right now. Other sectors maybe just being a little bit sort of, if you like, dicey based on that wariness by the consumer.
As a lender who's lent for many decades across a broad cross-section of Australia's middle economy, Ross, I've got to tell you, that's a day ending in Y for a lender. There are always sectors in the economy that are performing well, and there are always sectors that are under pressure. It's really important for lenders at the moment to have great discipline around credit and to be able to tell the difference between really good opportunities and perhaps areas where you need to tread a little bit more carefully.
Okay, but broadly though, your investors, those people putting the money in, should be expecting higher rates of return just simply because of the economic circumstances now.
That's right. It's a real pay rise, and we often forget about that in Australia. When interest rates go down, we're very pleased for our borrowers, but for investors, that's the same thing as a pay cut. So for investors, they look at the world through a very different lens. Now, what we want to see as an economy is a nice balance between the two. If borrowers are winning and interest rates are very, very low, that's terrible for investors, and vice versa.
Okay, then go back to the point you made about productivity needing to improve. This needs changes in government settings. Is that something that perhaps many of your borrowers are telling you that they found themselves a little constrained because of just the amount of government red tape that's around the place?
Yeah, we do need a very favourable, ambitious policy setting environment. That's true. I will say, though, Australian companies generally, Australians need to lean in a little bit more. They need to look at their own efforts and lean in a little bit more to the opportunities that are ahead of us. If you compare Australia and benchmark us across the rest of the world, Australians are still, compared to the rest of the world, very sceptical about AI and very slow to adopt it. We need a real cultural change. There's a risk, Ross, that after 3 decades of prosperity here in Australia, with that little COVID interruption perhaps, that maybe we've got a little bit comfortable and we need that great Aussie competitive spirit to come through. We don't want to be beaten in the AI race, that's for sure.
That's an interesting thing, because there will be entrepreneurs who will turn up with new apps and so forth. When they turn up on your doorstep needing credit, what's your own sense of how you value these businesses? Because sometimes there's no hard assets that often you will require to basically try and base that borrowing upon.
In our business, we are, in our Australian private credit funds, we are always doing loans secured by a mortgage over real property. So we're at a different part of the capital market, perhaps, to people who are seeding early stage tech companies, AI companies. But there is a really strong and healthy ecosystem of managers and banks serving that part of the market, Ross. I don't think, we're not really capital constrained. In a way, maybe we're a little bit culturally constrained at the moment. And that's the bit that I want to see change.
Just explain that, culturally constrained.
Feels like we're comfortable. Feels like whenever we're talking about AI, we go straight to the catastrophe scenarios. And certainly we want to be careful of the things that could go wrong. There will be disruption in industry. There will be jobs that really change fundamentally over the next 3 to 5 years. But take a breath. Last week, Ross, you and I were talking about the need for productivity growth in Australia. Here is a wonderful productivity tool. So before we go too quickly for the discussions of everything that could go wrong. And Ross, look, I have all my life been a great lover of science fiction, so I'm very happy to chew the fat over the doomsday scenarios. But perhaps first as an economy, we can really grab hold of the opportunity that AI presents. And more than anything, what will that do? That will get us a seat at the table. That will ensure our economy is competitive. That will ensure we are productive. We are creating a better future for our children. And it will ensure that we actually know what we're talking about when we're measuring, the issues and risks around artificial intelligence.
Chris Andrews, always good to chat to you. Many thanks for your time.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ross.